G'day folks, I just thought I'd give you a bit of an update on Great Chesterford Junction, as some people have been asking about my future plans for it, and some folks have also commented that they'd never seen quite so much of the layout before. So we might do a bit of a run through from one end of the room to the other. So let's start over with the Fiddle Yard, I think. Now this layout is a roundy, and it's in a room that's about 10 feet by almost 14 feet long, and this is the mainline Fiddle Yards. There's 3 roads for each line, the up line and the down line, and they sit behind and below what will be one of the branch line stations, Little Bardfield there. And you'll notice just coming out the side down here is something that's nowhere near complete yet, but that's where my Fiddle Yard cassettes are going, and there's only one built. Nothing happens very quick around here. Now there's a top that goes on this Fiddle Yard, and there'll be scenery on top of that, so I'll just fit that and I'll show you what that looks like. So that's the deal there, quite a bit of a transformation, as you can see, and it's still a work in progress and some things have to be worked out, but there you are. So the Fiddle Yards emerge from the underneath section here, and then we go across the bridge, of course, and this is where all the scenery starts, or the extent of it that I've done at the moment. So those of you who have been following the thread would have caught up with some of the little figures that were added to the factory scene here. That was a Christmas present from my wife, and the little figures were anyway, and I've added them in there, and a bit more junk, and also there's some workers over here in the factory complex dealing with carpet. It's Union Mills carpets there. Now, as you all know, the factory complex lifts off, and so does the grass bank here, and that's so that the flap can go down. I mean, normally I crawl under there, and I like to do that sort of thing, because as I'm getting older, I think it's good to be still physically active and let's say nimble. So I do that as a form of exercise. However, if we do get people here who are not as capable, that bridge can be lowered down, and underneath there I have 2 bolts that secure it in place, and so it's just a matter of unlocking the bolt. It's simply a gate bolt, and this here is a bit of a restrainer that stops the bridge from lifting up too far, overextending itself. So that's all taken care of there. Electrical continuity is only fed from the Fiddle Yard side here into the tracks there. There's no need to carry it on across here because it's unnecessary. So now we're looking at the first bit of town scene that I attempted, just on the side of the cutting here, and this is all part of the Great Chesterford, and all that was done a long time ago. I feel like it could do it better now, but then, you know, that's life, isn't it? That's the way things go. you just get better at things as you go along. Well, hopefully anyway. And this is the the lead into the station area, because we've got the goods yard here and associated back scene, etc. And then we move up into this station area. The bridge was done last year, and all of this was done last year. All the new additions, the little row of terraces there, I'm quite pleased with how they turned out, but there's been a bit of adapting going on with that, and modification. It was originally a Metcalf kit, but you can see that it's quite different to how it would have been originally. It was a red brick model, and I'm quite pleased with how my trees are coming along. And the little stone wall there, that's all one piece, that stone wall. It's one piece of polystyrene which was trimmed off a big sheet using a hot wire cutter, and I'd sort of scraped it first to get the indents into it to make it look a bit like stone, and that's the way it's come up. Now this is the area that should be being worked on. It hasn't been touched since before Christmas, but this is a removable section here behind the station, and that corner there very rarely needs to be got into to do anything, but as sure as you seal it up, you'll need to get in there. So that's a removable section, and still being worked on. There's some Tudor cottages to go here, lining up with this edge of the street here, and it'll start blocking that street scene there, a bit like that, and we'll move across here, and there's going to be a little town put in here. Still a work in progress, and as we move over to this section just behind the station here, that's white polystyrene there. Again, that has to be built up a bit more. I want a bit of a hill there, and maybe a pub over near the back there, and I'm still thinking about that, but anyway, that's the way that goes. Now as we move around from the end of the station there, you can see where the work pretty much finishes, so this is where we're up to here. Okay, now this leads us up to the high level station of Bamford, again, which is still a work in progress. Nothing much is going on here at the moment. It's pretty much as it was when I received it from Gary, and so I've done some modifications to track on this layout. It's not as it was originally, but it's going to work out okay. Now I have some Town Street models coming. It's part of it's arrived already, and there's a nice brick goods shed that's going to be going in here, and I think that'll look great along there. And I've also got a station building, not this old triangle thing. I've got a station building to go on there as well, and there's also some low relief buildings to go along the back scene there. So I'm looking forward to getting that done. As I say, I've received some of it. I'll show you that in a moment. Right, it's just a box full of bits at the moment. It all needs painting, but I think it's going to come up quite well. And yes, in there is a goods shed, and there's some low relief terraces and a pub. That's the pub there, that one. So all needs a lot of work, and then I think they'll look superb once they're done. Now just below Bamford here is my sliding fiddle yard. I did a video about this a long time ago and on how it works and everything, but the fiddle yard also has strip lighting under it now, and lights it up quite well. You can see it's LEDs, and you can see what's going on under there. Not very much at the moment. And up the end of it here is a loco storage yard, where you've got even some ring-ins from Australia in there. Yeah, and you can see there's a web camera there. Well, originally I was going to have it all monitored by cameras, but I've only got some old PCs that were going to handle the job, and they're really not up to the work. They haven't got enough memory or RAM to sort of really do it. So I think, you know, if it's lit up properly, it's going to work fine anyway. Yeah, folks, down underneath the layout is all usable area. So I've got an old TV there, and that's also got a video cassette player and a DVD player, because I've got a lot of old video cassettes and DVDs about railways, and they all still work fine. So and I get a good picture through that TV, so occasionally I'll come out here and watch one of those just for old time's sake. And over here I've got my library, all my railway magazines, etc. Never throw anything away. Even though they're old, you can quite often get some good ideas out of some of the old magazines. Nothing changes radically in model railways, I reckon. What has changed over the last, say, 30-40 years is everything's gone digital. However, the basics about scenery and scratch building models and all that sort of thing doesn't really change. You know, people may improve techniques, but you know, you can learn a lot sometimes from the old stuff, or even get some ideas about layouts and so on. Yeah, so that's the library, and just to the left of that, this is a hot country. So I've got a small room air conditioner that was donated by my brother-in-law, and that's reasonable on a stinking hot day. It's not too bad in here if you've got that going. There's all the power supplies under there, old transformers, etc., anything that's useful, and a couple of spares. All housed in, it was a bookcase, I think, that was just found on the side of the road and sort of brought home and painted up to hopefully almost disappear underneath the layout. And you can see down there I've got my timber cut for my Fiddle Yard cassettes, still waiting to be put together. It also gets cold out here, so there's a heater for the winter, more storage, etc. So that's about it. What I would like to say though is that this little loco here, this came for Christmas as well, and it's got to be the best running loco that I have at the moment. I mean, it's not a new loco, it's a Hornby, and its slow speed running on analog is terrific. So you can imagine how good it would be on a digital setup. But to run extremely well on analog is, let's say, unusual these days. So there you are. So it's all to play for out here, folks. Yeah, that's a trip around the room. I haven't done one of these for a while, but yeah, you can see get a general overview of what it's like in here. The lighting in here is LED fluoros. I used to have a problem with flicker caused by normal fluoro tubes, and I changed over to LED tubes, and that's improved the situation considerably in here. And also when you turn them on, it's instant, there's no flicker, so, and they're cheap to run, so that's good. And you can see I have all sorts of railwayana around the walls, and the great man, picture of the great man there. Just noticed that one of my pictures needs a bit of adjustment there. Yeah, so it's a little railway museum, this room. I've got all sorts of stuff out here, plates off railway stuff here in Australia. Scott McKenzie used to own that, if any of you folks know Scott McKenzie. Here's a picture I made up myself. I stuck Mr. Monet over the top of this railway poster. Probably sacrilege for some people, but I do like his little quotation here. It is better to have done something than to have been someone. That really hits home with me, and I think that's very true. Look at that, folks. I wonder where that came from. One person called Toto, I think. Yes. Very true. My wife says if I buy one more train, she will leave me. Gee, I'll miss her. And there we go. Look at that, folks, cigarette cards. Don't see those around much anymore. And basically a history there of British Railways in logos. This is actually a copy of a manufacturer's plate, but it's all been cast. And it's just nice to have it in the shed here. And an old antique photo there, a royal train. And look at that, folks, Gormo's first train set, what's left of it anyway, the old Triang, just kept nicely in a box there, out of harm's way. I got that when I was 7 years old, so that's 60 years old now, almost 60 years old. I suppose there's some of you are not familiar with my control setup here. These are all refurbished EDA controllers, analog controllers. They originally had like a blue metal face on them, but I made up these overlays in my drawing program so that I could have something that sort of I have a theme going here with the control panel as well. The whole railway is sort of working on coloured themes and all that sort of thing. And there's the track plan and isolating switches, and also point switches up here for the Fiddle Yard. I can throw they've got solenoids over there, whereas the rest of the railway here is mechanically operated with point levers and connecting rods. And this part of the railway, it's quite a narrow gap through here just to get in here. It's about 2'6", I think, which is okay for me, but once you get a couple of people in here it gets a bit cozy. So I didn't want to obstruct access into this rear part of the room, so this actually is hinged and can come up like that. So if you're sitting on a chair here, you can still work the railway, and it's like sitting at a little desk at a control panel. It's quite nice actually, and you sort of forget this sort of stuff as time goes on, but it's good to remind myself of it again. Yeah, a bit of thought went into that. It also comes off if you this part comes off. If you need to do any wiring underneath, you can take it off and reverse it and sit at it with it upside down and do the wiring. It's very handy. I'll put that down again. And point levers here, mechanical system as I said, and some over there as well, all with track plan on them to show which area of the railway that they're working. Even little windows there, you've got a view out. I've got some sheds here as well, folks. Don't know what I'm doing with this at the moment, but I couldn't resist it. It'll have a position here somewhere on the railway, and you've probably seen my manky old water tower. Well, I've got a replacement for that, a proper kit built one, so that one's days are numbered. So that's about all I can tell you at the moment, I think. I suppose you know, I'm also adding figures as I go along. We've got Mr. Portillo over here interviewing I.K. Brunel for Great British Railway Journeys, and we've got the camera crew here. I mean, they're all fixed down at the moment, but the people sitting down are not fixed at the moment. These little railway guys obviously are set down. Put this fellow down here, the guard, put him down the other day, or the station staff I should say, and these people have still got to find some spots. These are some of the first people here that I did this little scene. These guys are digging up the platform, and they're being supervised there by a gentleman who's probably not too popular if he stands there and watches them work. But you can see they've got a few of the pavers up, and they're doing a bit of work there to sort of restore the platform surface. I think this area is going to be bitumen like the rest here that they've been doing, replacing some of the old pavers. So that's it, folks. I've probably missed stuff and you've probably got questions, but sorry about that. Anyway, this is our first video for 2018 actually, so let's hope there's more and more to come over the year. Okay, cheers, Gormo.